You're watching the Battered Fans Network.
Welcome, everybody, to episode number 47 of the Battered MLS Fans Podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Ganana, and alongside me, I got two other Battered fans. From my left to your right, Mr. Tommy Two-Time. How are you doing, sir?
I'm great. Well, Atlanta's not great, but I got my dust boot. I'm ready to go.
And to my left, your right. My right, your left. Will, what's going on, man? How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. It's hard to believe we are 8 weeks for the season already. CONCACAF Champions Cup semifinals are right around the corner. Season's just going by fast.
It is. We're about a quarter of the way through now, right? About 8 games for just about every team. So now is when I started making ridiculous predictions on who's going to win the Golden Boot and MVP and all that other stuff. But we can leave that for a conversation. If you guys want to talk about it, I'm down. But I wanted to start with disappointments. We're talking disappointments today, and I wanted to start talking about disappointing teams. And I think the most disappointing team so far in the league, because of their high expectations and the way they ended the season last year with a nice little playoff run, is Atlanta United. So, Tommy, we got you on here to talk a little Atlanta. Tell me, what the hell's going on with Atlanta? Are you worried? Because they are getting shots. Their attack almost seems like it should be working. They just can't manage to get the ball in the back of the net.
I went back and looked at all the texts, the trash-talking texts that you send me every Saturday around 10 o'clock. And it's the same thing that I send back to you, because I know you probably don't watch a lot of their games. If you watch the games, and like people in your Discord have messaged me going, Atlanta looks great. Like there's times where the attack looks great, but they're not scoring. And then there's games where they just look complete trash, like against the New England Revolution. It was a bad game from them. That was a game where I was expecting them to have their signature win. They haven't had a signature win. Their 2 wins have been a 3-2 win against Montreal, which those were the only goals Montreal scored for like 5 weeks. And then their other win, they were down 3-1 against New York FC and had to come back to win 4-3. Since then, it's just been mediocre. A 1-1 draw against Dallas that they should have won. They dominated a lot of that game. Just they can't score. That's the problem. And Latte Loth had a lot of goals early on in the season, but right now he's not even getting in the area. It's cross into the box. Hope that you get a goal. Like Brooks Lennon is crossing it in, but it's not working. And the problem is when they made this roster, they were hoping that everything was going to work out perfect. They were going to put Saba on the left, which he does not like to be. Saba prefers to play on the right. He's successful on the right. Latte Loth in the middle, and then they would put Miguel Almiron on the right. Then you put Alexei Miranchuk at the 10 and hope that it all works out from there. But Miguel Almiron wants to play the 10, so he's drifting. Just drift into the center. There's been a couple points in the season where Almiron and Miranchuk, they're running into each other. Like, there was actually a goal that was scored, I think it was against New York, where they were both it might have been, I think it was both of them in the area, and you didn't know who was going to shoot it, and Miranchuk shot it, and it went in, but it should have been Almiron's ball. Like, they could have just ran into each other. It could have been a cartoon. It could have been a Saturday morning cartoon of just them running into each other. Their luck... I look at that New England game. They had 2 posts. They had a crossbar and a post in the last 5 minutes. But again, it's New England. I understand that they're good defensively. They're good, but you should not be in that situation where you're down 1-0 in the 80th minute there. So what do they do with right now? They're 3 DPs. We were just talking about it before we started this. Like, you can't get rid of Miguel Almiron. Like, you can't just do that. You can't do it just because, one, of who he is, and obviously, I mean, you just brought him on, but like, you get rid of him, that's just as bad as getting rid of Joseph Martinez there. Latte Loth, I mean, he's not the problem here. And then Miranchuk, I mean, he's an interesting person. We've had on our show, we've had MLS announcers come on, and that's the main part of the conversation. We had Dex McCarty come on. He's like, I don't know if he's the problem, but he doesn't belong there. So do you bring him back? And if you bring him back, who do you move around? And that's just the problem. It's just that they've got good puzzle pieces. They're not fitting, and they haven't made the right changes to be able to get a win right now. And they need wins because what's happening here in the summer, because of other tournaments going on at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, they're going on a 6 or 7 week road trip. Ooh. So that's why all these home games have been extremely important. This 3-game homestand, I said that they needed at least 7 points.
They got one?
And they got 4.
Oh, and NYCFC, that's right.
And then they got the draw against Dallas.
Yeah.
So they only got 4. But I said you need at least 7 because you got to start banking these points for the road, and they didn't do it.
But I hear you talking a lot about the lack of offense, the attack. But there's only 2 teams, or I think 3 teams that have allowed more goals than you guys. Sporting KC, which is horrible. LA Galaxy, which is terrible defensively, and I forgot what other team in the East. But I think there's only 3 teams that are worse than you defensively. Derek Williams is horrible.
Well, he's hurt right now, but I mean, it's been a combination. Now, you say that he's out, but Pedro Amador was also out to start the season. So who they were starting on the left at points, they were starting Edwards. I forget who else they had. I think Ronald Hernandez started there at one point. He's had to help out over there on the left, and he's made some silly mistakes, and the people around him have made silly mistakes. So, yeah, right now the center back situation has not been fantastic with this team either. And there was talks of, at practice yesterday, a couple players got into it. They were just scrimmaging against each other, and they got into it. Now, Dax McCarty says that's a good thing. We had him on the show earlier today, and he said, you know what, that shows that you have fight. And he said when he was with, I think he said it was when he was with I think, the Red Bulls, I think, or Dallas, I think he was talking about. He said a bunch of players got in a fight when we were losing, and he said the coach came and said, "I'm glad you guys are doing this. It shows that you have fight." So we'll see what happens. But they have Philadelphia this weekend. If they look worse than what they did against New England, it's a serious problem. But you got to hope that they fight back.
But New England wouldn't have scored if Latte Lath didn't think that it was Sunday and he was an Atlanta Falcon, basically tackling Carlos Hill in the box. Like, I don't know what he was thinking, but outside of that,
he's a problem with that. He's one yellow away from suspension right now.
So, because New England isn't a good team. I mean, Campana had a good chance at the end of the game, but he's not going to convert that.
That was so funny. Yeah. That was hilarious to watch.
It was the Leagues Cup final all over again with against Nashville for Campana. But yeah, the Revs aren't good. That was a really bad loss at home. That was a really bad loss. By far the most disappointing. Will, before I ask you about Atlanta, I'm curious. Is there any other team that you find more disappointing than Atlanta? I'm going to go out there and say, I told you I thought Seattle would be good. I still think they'll make the playoffs. But you were the one that told me I don't believe in Seattle. Do you think Seattle might be the most disappointing team?
That's exactly who I was going to say, man. Seattle. Okay. Many people said that they were going to finish first in the West, that they just needed, Jesus Ferreira or Paul Arriola was going to be a difference maker. Pedro de la Vega was going to have a good second season in MLS. It just hasn't came to fruition, man. They look like a complete mess. They can't score goals still. Albert Rusnak re-signed as a DP, which was a huge mistake. And I had a guy who covers Seattle come on my show, and he told me that they overpaid for him because they didn't want to have to spend a transfer fee on a DP number 10, which if that's the way you're making decisions, you're already, probably not making a good one to begin with. So I'm not high on this team. I think Brian Schmetzer is a good manager, but I think his time has came and passed. Maybe they need a fresh perspective and voice in the locker room. He has been there for almost 10 years, and he hasn't won an MLS Cup since 2019. So it's been 6 years.
But that was a good run they had last year.
I mean, was it though? I mean, we were talking about an own goal.
Conference Finals.
Yeah, but it was an own goal by Maxime Chanot. They didn't even score a goal in that game. It was an own goal, and it went to PKs.
But that's why
they got a goal. They did get a goal. I think Jordan Morris scored a goal, maybe. But either way, it was because Maxime Chanot let in he had an own goal.
Right. But the reason I thought that Seattle would be good this year is because they had one of the best defenses last year. And to me, show me that you have a good defense, you got a chance. And I thought with the additions to the attack that maybe, but Jesus Ferreira has been a ghost. Paul Arriola is out for the year already. Jordan Morris just finally came back. Well, he's available to come back. He didn't play last game. I don't know. I still think Seattle makes the playoffs, right?
No,
19
they will
make it.
definitely make the playoffs, but having a good back line is important, obviously, right? But in Major League Soccer, every team, all the good teams can score goals. So if you can't score goals, it doesn't matter how good your defense is. You're going to have there's going to be hiccups on the road, and you're gonna fail. You're gonna be exposed, and that's why Houston failed badly in the playoffs last year. They couldn't score a goal last year, and that's carrying over to this year. Houston's been a huge disappointment. They can't score. And I just think that this is a Band-Aid job that is just on a sinking ship, is what I would call Seattle right now. And I think they're in 12th place right now in the Western Conference.
They're in 11th
or
and
11th
they
place.
are just 1 point out of 9th.
But still, like, this is a team that shouldn't be fighting for a play-in spot, right? This is a team that should be comfortably probably at least, 6th or higher in the Western Conference standings.
But to be fair, and I know you're right. Like if my aunt had a ball, she'd be my uncle and all that other stuff. But that first game of the year, where Seattle at home ended up getting a draw with Charlotte, I remember it was a bad own goal in like the 93rd minute that ended up costing them that win. If they get that win right now, they're like in 8th place and they have an extra win. I think it was the first 2 weeks that they ended up having some bad luck with Yamar. I forgot how you pronounce his name.
Yamar, yeah.
Yamar. But yeah, okay, I give you Seattle. Do any of you guys think LA Galaxy might be worse than Atlanta? That's right. I'm going to keep shitting on Atlanta. Can LA Galaxy...
Can I just throw one more thing about Seattle?
Yeah.
When Garth Lagerwey joined Atlanta United, I mean, he made some comments about the change in ownership with them. I mean, and it wasn't like an actual change in ownership, but their spending and how they wanted to move forward. The funds that they wanted to give were less, and that was one of the reasons why he bailed from that team. Was because he obviously wanted to spend money and he didn't get that opportunity. So the shift in Seattle since Garth has joined, I mean, I haven't looked at the money spent there, but obviously they just don't, it seems like they don't want to spend as much on especially like DP type players. So it would be interesting to see how they go over the next couple of years. They continue to move downward because of the lack of spending.
And that's always been the thing with Seattle. And then the Galaxy, I've seen some people in the chat put Galaxy. I kind of figured that they would struggle, even though their team is almost at full strength right now. I think the only person missing at this point is Pooch.
Yeah, but that's the most important person to be missing.
Yeah, I mean, he had by far the most touches in the league last year. I know, but
Joseph Painter's only played like maybe two games.
Yeah,
2 games. So he's trying to get back in form, and they've heavily relied on Peck this year, and teams are really focused on him and kind of eliminated him in the game. So I just think they're kind of having I don't want to call it a sophomore slump, but just like a post-title hangover, and plus an injury, a major injury in Ricky Puig. I think they'll be fine because we all know that it's the first half of the season obviously can put you behind the 8 ball, but as long as you get it figured out by the summer, I mean, that's why Atlanta, fans aren't probably fully panicking yet because you can still figure it out by the summer, maybe bring in a piece or 2 or 3 and turn it around.
You think
Atlanta can't? I mean, they could sign some U22 players, but their roster, I mean, the way that they did it last year, it wasn't that they were tanking. What they were is they were saving as much GAM as they could there. Trying to be able to buy players down. I mean, the players that they had, they legit only had 1 DP player for a third of the season. And if they didn't sign Marinchuk, they would have had 0 legit DPs there. So they've used every roster mechanic to basically build this team. And that's what they promised the fans. Like, yeah, last year was a disappointment. They snuck in that, and that was a miracle. Okay. They had so many things that had to happen on decision day to be able to sneak in, and then to beat Montreal on the road, and then to beat Miami. All of that. Oh, get that thing off. Don't you
keep that up there. You keep that up there.
No, I showed up on your show with a glass of milk. That was one of my prouder moments of my podcasting life.
I am totally giving it to Mr. Emmanuel Latte Lot because I was told this guy was going to be a difference maker. And you said earlier about just puzzle pieces. They got good ingredients. They just got the wrong recipe. That's the way I would describe it right now. Okay. But Emmanuel Latte Lot scored a brace his first game, right? Which is what you expect. But they played, okay, we have hindsight
Montreal.
Now. We're 8 weeks in. They played the worst team in the league and he scored a brace. So that means he has 3 goals in 7 games. not counting the first game of the year. I don't think he is delivering enough. Now, I know that your counterpoint is, well, he's not getting the service he needs. He's not, the attackers aren't helping him. He's not, but that's the thing. $30 million guy, if he hits his incentives or whatever, which I don't, it doesn't look like he probably is going to at this moment. He's got to do more. He's the fastest guy on the pitch. I think he actually might be faster.
But they're not using him to his strength, and that's.
I think he's played well, and he's hit the crossbar a few times. If I were to ask you, of these three players, who's been the best so far? Zaha, Denke, or Latelat? I'm going Latelat.
But the difference is that Zaha is on loan. Denke costs $17 million. Latelat costs $30 million.
Don't worry about the cost. Tag. Who's been the best signing?
But that's
and Latelat wasn't Latelat like 23. I didn't think it was 30. Like 23.
There's a sell or a incentives or risers that could. I don't know what they are though. I mean, maybe he will. Maybe it's 15 goals. Maybe it's 20. I don't know. Maybe he will. Maybe he won't. But it could go up to 30 million.
Of those three, who's had? Because Denke has also been disappointing.
I would say Zaha has probably had the best of the three.
Zaha sucks. I thought Zaha was by far the worst.
No,
Zaha
man,
sucks.
No, that's the Miami.
I don't think he sucks.
He sucks. I remember that first game where he scored a goal and an assist. The goal was, I don't know, just a random little tap in, and then the assist wasn't even an assist. The defender poked the ball away from him, and it landed on his teammates. I think it was Albata's foot, and he scored. Zaha's overrated. I'm sorry.
But he's a winger. He's not supposed to score as much as Latelat.
He's not assisting either. He's not assisting either.
He's creating chances, though. He's helping.
Pep Biel is the best player on that team. Pep Biel is the MVP of the league right now.
No, it's Diego Rossi. We'll get into that later.
No, you're crazy. But it's Pep Biel.
It's Diego Rossi for sure. But we'll talk about that later. But I'm just saying, when you have a price tag, there is expectations. Yes, okay, sure. Emmanuel Latelat is playing better than the $1 million striker that so-and-so team paid for. But the expectations are different. Emmanuel Latelat was paid for to transform this team into a legitimate contender in Major League Soccer. And 5 goals in 8 games, 2 goals a brace against Montreal, the worst team maybe this league has ever seen. I don't know if they're going to win a single game this year. Honest to God, I don't know if they're going to win a game. I mean, you have to be a whole new level of stink to not win a game in MLS 8 games in. I mean, that is pretty bad.
That's the Galaxy, but it's 3 teams, though, because it's Montreal, Toronto, and Galaxy.
But the Galaxy will definitely win a game because as soon as Puig comes back, they'll be fine.
When's
Toronto?
Any idea?
July, I think July or something like that. Now, Toronto FC, obviously Insigne has a terrible deal, probably the biggest bust in MLS history based on what he was paid, $15 million a year. But they do have Federico Bernardeschi, who is an absolute baller, right? That is way more than anything Montreal has. They signed a bunch of scrubs and odd pieces when your biggest acquisition is a 3rd to 4th string center back from the LA Galaxy and Jalen Neal, keep in mind, worst team in MLS in the Western Conference right now. And then you trade for Vrioni, the reject striker who Leo Campana replaced at New England. So you're signing the worst team in MLS as starting striker on your team. They just have no hope. They fired their manager. I think that they will end up getting a win. Let's be honest. I mean, what's the chances of you losing every single game this year? But who knows? They could only win 2 games this year.
All right. So wooden spoon for sure is what you're saying.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, God. Okay. Yeah,
so
for sure.
I went back and I just pulled it up. So Zaha has played 6 games, 2 goals, no assists. I'm telling you, the guy's trash. Then we got Kevin Denke, 7 games, 3 goals, no assists. But he's played in Champions Cup, and I think he's performed well there. So I'll give him a pass. Emmanuel Latelat, 8 games, 6 goal contributions, 5 goals, 1 assist. And that's that he's hit the crossbar a bunch of times. I'm telling you, Latelat, he's going to have a really good season.
I agree, but the way that Atlanta plays, they're not using his speed correctly. And that's the thing. Like the counters aren't there. They're just throwing. It's like they're at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. People are just trying to throw these long passes like he's Julio Jones, hoping that he can get it into the end zone.
But he gets his head on him.
He has, but they're definitely, this offense is not where it should be right now. And you're right that he has hit the post. He had one that was offside last week. I mean, there's a lot there, but I mean, the entire team needs to come together for this to work out. I mean, you still have to figure out where Miguel Almiron's going to play, and wherever Miguel Almiron's going to play, you need to put little circles around saying this is where you go. You cannot keep going when he played on the left. There were multiple crosses that went over there. There was literally nobody there. That's where he should have been.
Also, too, I have to, because I'm sure we'll talk about something else here, like the schedule here soon. But as far as my Diego Rossi point about being MVP, they literally sold their best player on opening day, Cucho Hernandez. Okay, sold their best player. Diego Rossi had to take a huge load on his shoulders. Pause. Okay, huge load on his shoulders. All right, had to carry this team undefeated through 8 games, 5 goals this year. He's tied for technically 3rd place in the Golden Boot race, and he's not even a striker. He's a false 9 playmaker, wide player, not even a true number 9. And it's like a well-oiled machine. Nothing it's like Cucho Hernandez is still there. No issues. Okay. And I believe that once they get Daniel Gazdag into the fold, and they get a DP number 9 in the summer, this team is going to be incredible. This is going to be
good right now.
The team's already good. And we're going to see on Saturday who is truly the best team in the Eastern Conference between Columbus and Miami. But Diego Rossi has really, I mean, it's not easy to lose your best player maybe in your franchise's history in Cucho Hernandez, because he probably is the best player they've ever had. And Diego Rossi has had to step it up and take it to another level. And I think he is playing some of the best ball of his career, at least the best ball he has since he's been playing for the Crew. So if you are the best player on the best team in the league and you are scoring 5 goals through 8 games, how could you not be an MVP candidate?
Well, I didn't say he wasn't a candidate. I said he's not my number 1.
But you kind of made it seem like he wasn't even on the list. Like you made it seem like it's laughable to even consider him.
No, if that's how it came off, no, I was laughing at the fact that Saha was the best. Like I think Saha sucks, but Rossi, no, I think in top 5 for me, I put Pep Biel, Rossi, Messi, Mihailovic in Colorado, and I don't know who I'd put as number 5. But Rossi's definitely up there. But Brian White, yeah. Even though he scored 2 goals and 6 of them, but 4 of them came just this past weekend. But he is the main cog there. But Columbus has a good squad around him, and I think that
and a good
takes
manager,
a little bit of, and a great
the best manager in the league, the best manager.
And I think Pep Biel's doing this with a defensive-minded coach, Zaha, and then Ajimang, which hasn't been lived up to what we expected. So to me, it's Pep Biel, but Rossi definitely a contender. But
the reason I say it too is if Diego Rossi had been sold and Cucho Hernandez had 5 goals through 8 games, everybody would be saying he's MVP. If it was Diego Rossi gone, Cucho Hernandez was the guy still at Columbus, they'd say, okay, best team in the league, 5 goals, MVP of the league right now, because he was runner-up last year. That's what he was runner-up. He only 19 goals last year. He was runner-up for MVP in 2024.
He was doing it all last year, though.
Diego Rossi's doing it all this year, and he doesn't have a Cucho Hernandez to help him out. He's the guy. Like, he is the guy.
Right.
Are they buying down Nagby? Is that what you're assuming?
Well, I think what's going to happen is, so Nagby's 35. I don't think they can buy him down. I think they're going to sign him to a new deal, and then it will just kind of, the average of it will be less. Like, he'll be able to be bought down, because I think he's making like $2 million a year right now.
Well, remember there was that story that came out that MLS wouldn't let him buy him down.
Yeah.
Was it a couple?
Keep Zelarayan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back to the disappointing teams real quick. So your vote for most disappointing team, Tommy, is it Atlanta?
I think so. I mean, they said in the chat, with the amount of money and the amount of hype, especially what the club created. Now, last season, when they signed Marinchuk, Garth Lagerwey said, "We're back." And we made fun of that all summer. We're like, what, one player and we're back? And the results weren't there, especially when he first came on. Yeah, they snuck into the playoffs and all that, but that was not it. But when you go sign 2 DP players in the summer, or I'm sorry, in the winter, and you're selling these expectations, and you've got 2 wins, and you've got draws at home against Dallas and the Red Bulls, where you should have won both. Like the record, they're off to the worst start in franchise history. The worst start, and they've had some pretty shitty years, the COVID year where Joseph Martinez got laid out
last year.
I was at that game when he tore his ACL and against
in
Nashville. I was at that. It was an inaugural match.
That shitty field really destroyed Atlanta United's aura. It really did. Like
I hate that stadium. I hate that. I mean, look, I'm a Titans fan, but I hate that stadium is terrible.
That point in time, that field, that game changed Atlanta United's entire trajectory in MLS. I mean, he was the best player in the league.
Could you imagine where Joseph would be right now if he would have never tore his knee?
Absolutely. I mean, that's...
Did he tear it twice? Did he tear his ACL two times?
So he had to have multiple surgeries with that knee. Like, he thought he was never going to play again. And, like, obviously that was a weird year, COVID. Like, when he finally was able to have that surgery, like, everything was shut down. So he had to do some crazy things. I think he came out to Pennsylvania to have the surgery. But he had to have multiple done that season. So he didn't think that he was going to ever be able to come back. But if there's ever, like, those fun moments where you talk about, like, what if you could change one moment in history, it's that Joseph Martinez one, because he was he wasn't going anywhere. He wanted to be Atlanta for life. And, like, when you see a guy that says, I want to be in MLS, this is my league, this is my Barcelona, which was his exact quote.
Yep.
And you see a player like that go down, and it just completely changes his career. It's one of the most, like, and if he wasn't in Atlanta, I would still be saying the exact same thing. Like, a guy that loves this league that we all love, and
he stuck around.
It makes him from MVP, best, going for possibly the best player ever in MLS, to just unfortunately becoming what he did. And I'm glad that he's had.
How happy are you that he got the hat trick a couple weeks ago?
Oh, it was fantastic. I mean, I watched the LAFC game. He had a couple of chances to score goals there. I mean,
remind me before the show ends, Tommy. I gotta send you a Joseph shirt that we made on the store. I can't forget. I kept meaning to send it to you, and I keep forgetting.
I'm already wearing this, baby.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Daniel, are we going to give? Do you want to give our most surprising teams that are good this year? Because I think that there's a couple of those too. Who's yours?
Go for it.
You want me to go first?
Surprising? Yeah, go ahead. Go first.
I think you have to go with Vancouver. I mean, this is a team. Preseason, they listed the team for sale, and the ownership group said that they were going to list the team for sale because they no longer believe that they could commit and give the resources to make them competitive. And now that the first team in the Western Conference, they've lost one game all year. They're in the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup to play Miami, which they could beat Miami. Like, I don't think Miami should just kind of overlook the Whitecaps, because they definitely could give them a run for their money. And all it took was essentially a new manager, Jesper Sorensen, kind of an unknown guy. Sartini was a very popular fan favorite manager just for, like, his press conferences and everything he would say. But it is really crazy to see just like the difference a manager can make. I mean, you would have to, even though Nancy is the best manager in MLS, right? You'd have to probably give Sorensen the nod for Coach of the Year, just taking a team that was underwhelming last year and what he's done with them this year. He has to be, the leader in the house for Coach of the Year. And I mean, what they've done is incredible. I was skeptical at first, but 8 games in, they're 6-1-1. Semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions Cup, beat 2 Mexican teams.
They didn't beat them.
Hey, they advanced. It's a win in my book.
They drew 4 games.
If Liga MX had advanced, they'd be saying they're winning. That's just how it is.
They drew 4 games, though.
That's how it is.
Hey, it's not easy to draw with a Liga MX team in Mexico, but they drew 4 games. They didn't beat them. But yes, they advanced. Fair. And
they had to go to Mexico and make sure they did get the result, which
both
teams
both times.
So MLS teams, are notorious for squandering that. They didn't this time. So I have to give them their flowers, and what they've done is incredible. Next week is a huge week. I can't wait for the first leg of the semifinal.
Absolutely, it is. And that's the fact that Galt has been out basically since like week number 2 or 3, and they've been doing this all. Nelson went out for a couple of weeks, and they've managed to. Emmanuel Sabi came in. He's balling. Ali Ahmed balling. Like, I feel like that team is so deep. It's
Brian
wild.
White missed a couple games with the.
Brian White didn't even start the last game, the decision game against was it Pumas? The 4th game, the second leg. He didn't even start.
Started that, I think.
Yeah. That's a ballsy move. He came in eventually, but he didn't start, which was wild.
They lead the league in goals and goals against.
Yeah, no, they're good all from top to bottom. I would say Chicago I think people were expecting and excited to watch Triple G fail for some reason. And I think that Chicago has, even though they're not top of the table, I think that they've played much better than people expected. Jonathan Bamba's balling. Hugo Kuipers might win Golden Boot. And I think that they are a surprise team. I thought that they would make the playoffs, but I think they played a lot better than people expected. And then on the West Coast, I love watching Colorado play. I enjoy watching Mihailovic. He's like my favorite non-Inter Miami player. I love watching Mihailovic play.
Really?
With Navajo and Basti. I think that they're a good squad also. But that one, I don't think it is as much of a surprise. I think Chicago for me. Tommy, any surprise team for you?
I mean, I was going to say Vancouver, but San Diego's not doing too bad. I mean, there was a lot of questions. I mean, there were people saying that they were going to be the worst team to start the season. And so far, expansion team. I mean, it feels like the expansion team excuse that you used to see like back in the 90s and 2000s. Like, if you're an expansion team, you're going to suck. That really feels like it has changed over the years in every sport. I mean, you look, I mean, even just like other sports, like the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights end up being good immediately.
Stanley Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, you look at MLS teams that come expansion, they're not bad at all. And it's, I mean, a lot of them come in and they're immediately good. And I love that because you'd always see an expansion team go, okay, they're going to be crappy for years. And it's good to see San Diego. Like you look, I know it's the West Coast market, but it's a popular market. And if you can get all those teams running at the same time, that just makes the West all more exciting. And you've got a lot of teams now in California. So if you can make as many derbies as you can, you're going to see a lot of those on Sunday Night Soccer.
Yeah. And then back to that MVP talk, Dreyer is my fifth. You know, I couldn't think of a fifth. I think Dreyer is that the guy that the straw that stirs the drink right there for San Diego. I think that he's been great.
Do you think do you guys think we'll see another firing before the summer?
Ben Olsen.
Yeah, I'd like to think he'd be fired, but I was talking to a guy who is pretty connected to the club, and he thinks that they'll give him another year, even if this is bad, because he made the playoffs twice, and they had like a several-year drought where they didn't make the playoffs, so they think that they would probably give him 1 year to right the ship, especially since they never really replaced Hector Herrera. There's been what, 2, 3? There's Montreal fired their manager.
Montreal and KC.
Sporting, Peter Vermees, thank God, fired.
After like 1 billion years.
Yeah. I think we're heading into the era of MLS where you will see more teams give shorter leashes and fire coaches, because Rob Valentino. Caleb Porter, probably, if he makes the playoffs, he'll be fine.
He's not making the playoffs.
I'm ready to fight you about what you're about to say about Rob Valentino.
I was just going to say, even him beating Miami, he didn't get to keep his job. They didn't give him a chance, and no one else hired him. That was what I was going to say. No one even gave him a chance.
Yeah. The talk always was that he just wasn't smart tactically. He was just more of a rah-rah guy, and
sometimes that's all you need.
And he took advantage of a situation. I mean, he had the FEA thing going around everywhere, and that was their mantra, and it ended up working out. But could you imagine if Atlanta had this same record, worst start in franchise history, and Garth Lagerwey re-signed him to a contract, extended him? Like, that would look terrible on Garth for keeping him there because he didn't have a lot of experience. I'm shocked that nobody has brought him on. There's a few Atlanta fans that still bring him up saying, what would that timeline look like if you brought him on? And I don't know. I don't know how it would have gone. But I mean, maybe he's on his way. I'm shocked that he's jobless at the moment. I mean, I thought someone, in a lesser league would have brought him on, but nothing yet.
Well, no. I mean, what openings are there right now? I mean, Montreal, it's an interim coach, but I haven't heard anything about them. And KC also, they have an interim. I forget who it was. So I don't know. Maybe next year. Maybe he ends up in Atlanta. All right. So moving on, 2026. It was finally announced that although they're still considering the change of calendar, it's not happening in the year 2026. I'm glad because I am against the changing of the calendar. I know Will is pro change because he loves Europe. I'm not sure about Tommy, so I guess I'll start there. Tommy, supposedly they aren't, and I thought that they would just because the World Cup is here. So, okay, during the World Cup, all the commercial breaks and everything. Hey, by the way, the new season starts in August. Right after this is over, we're kicking off a new season. That's why I thought that it was going to happen next year, but it's not. What are your thoughts on the change of calendar?
Personally, I'm happy. And Will and I have had this conversation before. There's so many pluses and minuses, I think, on both sides, because I was obviously against it. But one of the situations we run into, and I wanted to bring this up, was that, MLS Cup was on college conference championship weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't able to watch it. I went to the Big Ten championship in Indianapolis, so I wasn't able to get a chance to watch it. And I was actually just talking to all of our Scarves and Spikes writers. And what if Atlanta would have made it to? I know that they wouldn't have hosted. Okay, I know that they were the bottom seed, but let's just alternate universe. What would have happened in that situation? Because the SEC championship game is in Mercedes-Benz Stadium on that Saturday. So what do you do? How do you move that game around? Because we asked that, and I couldn't find an answer if there was. But I think that's the situation that it will be this year as well. The same type of thing. The part for me why I always like it is I see MLS as the entire summer as MLS season for me. I'm not a big baseball fan. Baseball, I've lost my love for that over the past 5 years, and that's my sport all summer long. Because really, all you have, and if I forget something random, you have the WNBA, you have Major League Baseball, and you have MLS. Those are the main things running. Is there anything else that I'm missing here?
No, that's it. I mean, unless you count the major soccer tournaments that happen in the summer.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I know that's an issue with missing players there, but that's how I look at it. I don't want to break in the summer for that. I understand, and we'll talk about it, but having the playoffs in the summer, you were able to focus on that. There's an argument for both as far as the schedule goes. But I know the big part about it is being able to bring in players, bringing in players in the windows, aligning with everything, making it a little bit easier. I mean, Atlanta was still able to bring in some really good players here, despite the weird windows that they have. I selfishly, and I told Will this when I was on it, just selfishly, I just want the entire summer to know that I've got MLS every single Saturday. Now, I know it gets dicey. I know that it becomes a problem as soon as college football starts, because that's obviously a huge problem from there. But for the entire, spring to there, I mean, I know you got the NBA playoffs and the NHL playoffs, but there's less games on than there are when the regular season's going. For me, I think it's best. Now, I will say this, though. The problem with the summer and you owning MLS is it's on Apple TV. And I love Apple TV. I don't, if anyone wants to fight me about Apple TV, I think it's a great thing, except that it's not everywhere that you go. Because if you want this sport to grow,
not at the bars, like you said.
I want to be able to go to a bar, and I want to be able to see that these games are on. It does not exist in the real world unless it's on Fox. And let's just say the Fox presentations absolutely suck, especially if you listen to the audio of that. I am not a fan of it. So you are hiding in a bubble where in all summer long you could be on Fox, you could be on ESPN, and that's how it used to be before Apple TV. You would see it on. I would go to the bar every time it was on ESPN and Fox, just to be able to go out and enjoy the game and watch it with friends out there instead of having them all at my house. Now I have to have them all at my house. That's the only way that you're going to be able to do it. So I guess that's my point. Is if you are going to own the summer, it can't be hidden on Apple TV.
That's fair. That makes sense. Will, your thoughts on the calendar change? And then real quick, it's something that Tommy said about the playoffs being in June or May. Is that when they would be? May, June?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Okay.
So they'd be going on at the same time as the NBA and NHL, no?
I want you to scroll up, and I want you to find your co-host, Chris. I want you to find his comment and put it up here, if you don't mind. Not the hair one, but the NFL one.
I mean,
It's a little bit further up. You can put the hair
well,
one up too if you
you
want.
don't have to talk shit about my hair
Hey,
on air.
each is their own. But he said there's something called the NFL here that will crush us like a bug. Okay. So I hear this a lot, and I just wondered for everybody who says this, do they even watch MLS? Do they watch the NFL? Because as it currently stands, the NFL season runs 3 months during the MLS season, and it's the most important part of MLS's season, the playoffs. Tommy just said he didn't watch the MLS Cup final because the college football the Big Ten championship was on the same day as the MLS Cup playoff. No, okay, I shouldn't say no. Most Americans are going to watch college football or the NFL over MLS. We can all agree with that. That's just a fact. So why would you want your most important part of your season where you decide the champion of your league to be competing with college football in the NFL? You're right. It is getting squashed like a bug. And right now, this is the worst time to have your championship game played is during the NFL or college football season. And my proposal, or that they proposed that MLS would adopt, you would have the MLS Cup playoff or final the first Saturday of June, which will be the same day that the Champions League final is played. So you would watch the Champions League final earlier in the day because I think it's normally around like 2 to 4 o'clock, somewhere around that time. And the MLS final would be played at like 7 o'clock that night. And this way you wouldn't have to worry about. Now, look, NBA is on during that time. I don't think they normally, the NBA finals, they don't play NBA finals games on Saturdays. It's normally on Sundays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. They don't play it on Saturdays. So you wouldn't even have to worry about basketball competing with that. And then the NHL. NHL I'm not worried about because NHL is the fourth most popular league in the
talking about when the NBA finals start. When you're talking about the conference finals, things like that, they play them all the time.
But here's the thing: the NBA finals, even the NBA finals, the championship, even if they play the same day, NBA finals ratings are worse than college football regular season games. More people watch college football regular season games than they watch the NBA finals.
Football is king.
That's what I'm saying. So so I would take my chances even against an NBA finals game or an NHL Stanley Cup finals game than the NFL or college football. And there's obviously ways you could schedule around it to where they wouldn't even play on this because I don't think they play hockey games on Saturdays either. I think they play on Sundays. Do they play the Stanley Cup finals on Saturdays?
Yeah, they try to avoid the NBA. They almost flip flop the schedule. So
either way, I would much rather play the Stanley. I mean, I don't watch hockey. I would much rather have MLS compete against NHL than the NFL or the college football any day of the week.
You don't watch the Predators?
No, hell no. I don't watch that. I got too many other sports I got to worry about. I got to cover a whole week.
Hockey's awesome, man. You got to get into it.
Maybe I don't know, but I'm just saying though.
Can I ask you a quick question, real quick? You said the NFL. Did you just mean college? Because like earlier, you started talking about the NFL, but it's more college that you're concerned than the NFL, correct?
No, it's NFL too because MLS is playing 3 games a week on Sundays, and they're trying to make this NFL Sunday primetime game, which is the game of the week. Who's going to watch the Sunday primetime game over Sunday night football?
Before you go to the next point, can I say something real quick? Yeah. I've had this, and I'm against the change of calendar, but I don't understand why people keep talking about the NFL because one way or another, we're playing at the same time as the NFL. Like, it doesn't change. Right now, we're playing through the beginning of the season, which is September, October, November, and then the first week of December. But we play on Saturdays the majority of the time. When it comes to the championship, it's on Saturday. It's not on Sunday. So the NFL, to me, isn't a big deal. So I'm with you. I don't know why people keep bringing up the NFL because I don't think it's that big of a deal because I don't feel like they coincide very much.
Well, it is now, though. It is now because they're doing the Sunday night games. Like they do 3 games a week on Sundays now, and there's a Sunday night primetime game. So are we just going to get rid of this? So the Sunday night primetime game we've been sold, are we just going to get rid of that when the NFL season starts?
Are you really gonna like? Do people really?
Just about. If you look at the schedule, I don't think there are many Sunday games once the summer's over. I think they cut it down to just one every Sunday night.
Well, either way, another point too is that in the summertime, you don't want your players to be missing your best players like Messi and Suarez. They missed like 8 games this summer because of the Copa America and because they needed a rest or they got injured. So your best players literally missed. To what you said, because we're 8 weeks this season too, they missed 25% of your season because they were playing in other tournaments. If you had this summer break, and here's the thing too, people make it seem like we're not going to play for 4 months in the summer. the way it would line up is the final would be the last or the first week of June, and then you would start back up the first week of August. So you would have the entire month of August, which is still technically summer. And obviously September 20th is when I think when summer ends. So technically you would play 2 months in the summer. You just wouldn't play most of June and all of July, which are the 2 hottest months of the year. Now, a lot of people say, well, the weather's bad. You can't do it, Will. It won't work. How dare you say we have to go watch our team in the winter? But with the way that's proposed, it wouldn't be much different as far as when the games are played cold-wise, except maybe 2 weeks you would play earlier than what you're playing right now. It'd be so the season starts the 22nd, 21st of February. The season would start, or the second part of the season would re-up in February, the beginning of February. And if you really had to, because a cold climate teams is just brutal, you could just have them play on the road. Tommy just said that Atlanta's about to have a 6-week road trip. Why can't certain teams in the northern climates just have a prolonged road trip to avoid the cold weather?
I think stopping the season in the middle for a break is like probably the worst thing about this change. Why on
they do it
earth?
for Leagues Cup? They do it for a month for Leagues Cup.
They stopped it.
They're not doing it this year. They did it for 2 years,
and they've realized that it didn't work, and they got rid of it because a break in the middle. It's a horrible idea.
Couldn't you play Leagues Cup in the winter now, though? Could you not just have so during that time you could have the teams go to Southern Pods and play the Leagues Cup during that winter break? That'd be the best time to do it.
I don't remember if you hate the Leagues Cup or not, but the majority of fans this hate the Leagues Cup. So what you're telling me is like, hey, by the way, I know we're halfway through the season. We got some momentum. I know your team is doing well, but we're gonna stop playing for 6 to 8 weeks so that you could go ahead and enjoy.
Read what Mitch just said down there, because another league in Europe does the same thing. They take a 5-week break. In Germany, the Bundesliga takes a 5-week break.
That's fine, but I don't see how that works over here. I don't see what the point of doing that over here is. We should take advantage of the summer. The summer is the time where this sport has a chance to grow.
But here's my counterpoint: that the summer is so overhyped. Now, the sickos go to the games, but the average fan does not care about the summer. They're going on vacation with their family. They're hanging out. They're going to cookouts. They're not worried about soccer.
Or they're planning away trips. They're going to away games.
And I saw it this summer because I cover the league. They didn't care because Copa America Euros were going on. Nobody cared about MLS this summer. They cared about Copa America and the Euros.
That was 4 weeks. The summer is 2 months.
But that's what I'm saying. With the way this break would work, it would essentially be, so it's, the season would end in June. And then obviously the tournaments normally start in June 14th and they end in mid to late July. And the season would start back up in August 1st. So that literally would be the gap.
If you were going to tell me what the positives are outside of the transfer window, because I know that's the main thing, that's the only thing that I really see as the positive. What do you think is the main positive for this change?
So MLS has historically struggled against Liga MX because they're in their late season form in the Champions League. You would be perfectly aligned with them now to where you're in the same form as they are. You would probably win the Champions League more consistently because your teams aren't
happen anyway. Our teams are better now.
Your team isn't in preseason mode, but there have been numerous occasions where a team loses because their team is in preseason or they should have won. And that wouldn't happen anymore. Okay. And number two,
more MLS champions moving forward.
Two, I want my playoffs to be played when they're not college football and the NFL is not going on. I want as many people watching the playoffs because that is the most important time of the year because it's a champion of our league. You get
randoms to watch it though?
I think you have a better chance getting randoms to watch that if it's not going against college football.
A lot of those playoff games are hidden behind Apple TV.
Well, and that's the thing. I do think that's part of the equation, Tommy. 100%. I agree. Apple has been a huge disaster in my opinion. It's not now the production is good. I'm not saying anything about the quality of what we're watching. It's about how it's accessible to people. It's not easily accessible to people, and that's an issue.
I think we agree on that 100%.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I was going to ask you about the growth during the summer. You don't think that there's a benefit to being the only sport outside of baseball that can be watched during the summer? Like if you go back to 2023, do you think Messi Mania in this country is as popular if it happens in January or February during the playoffs, or whether it happens in December, November, or even in the beginning of the football season, right? Because you said that the season will start at the end of August. when everybody's in training camp, preseason football is happening, and ESPN is all over the NFL season? Do you think it happened because when the Messi mania was happening, it was basically the only thing outside of baseball happening? So when you turn on ESPN, Fox Sports, everywhere they were talking about Messi. It was wild. It doesn't happen if it's not happening during the summer months when there's nothing else going on.
No, I think it would have been, the hype would have been the same no matter what, because it was Messi coming to America, and it was also against Liga MX, a unique tournament. So it was just like lightning in a bottle. And I'll give you another example too. Last year, when they played Leagues Cup, Messi missed 8 games of regular season play, and he didn't play a single match in Leagues Cup. And how much hype was behind Leagues Cup last year? Because Messi didn't play a single game. Because what tournament did he play in instead? What
Copa
tournament
America.
did he play instead? Exactly.
Yeah, I know, but
why
I think
is
it was that month break, and we got rid of that. I think people didn't like the fact that we stopped the season for a full month, and we've gotten rid of that. Now it's going to be played during the week.
But even if you get rid of it, okay, and it's 2 weeks instead of 4 weeks now, right? You still are going to have players missing because of these tournaments. And here's another thing that's important of why I want to change the schedule, okay? This is another thing I can't emphasize enough, right? If you don't make the playoffs, your season ends in October, and you don't start back up till February. That means you're off for 4 months because of the way the schedule's laid out right now. 4 months. No other top league in the world has a you talked about 6-week winter break. How many serious leagues has a 4-month off season? 4 months.
So you're
October
trying to give
till February.
When would the break be then if they got eliminated in, what would you say? If the season ends in May, then the playoffs will start, mid-April? So it would go from mid-April to August. So it'd be just
in my proposal, the playoffs are all in May. And the way you could do it, the only way you could do it, it's different now, is it's 6 weeks instead of 4 weeks, which it would be in the new schedule. It's 6 weeks now because they take an international break during the playoffs. They'll play the first round, then they take a 2-week break, and then they start back up to semifinals because of international games. So if you do it in May, you don't have to worry about that. So you could play the entire playoffs in May. So every non-qualifying playoff team season would end in April, like late April, like the last day of April. And then they would start back up in August. So their off season would be 3 months instead of 4 months. I mean, 4 months is a long time. And also, too, the playoff teams only be playing 1 more month than the non-playoff teams. Right now, they're playing 2 more months than the non-playoff teams. That's just too much. And also,
that I agree. That 3-game, legged, whatever the hell that is in the first round is horrible.
Yeah, and also, too, another thing that you have to point out is because of the congested schedule. Let's just say, for example, you say, you know what, Will, hey, I agree. The international tournaments, they don't need to be playing games, right? Don't play games during the World Cup. Don't play games during Euros. Let's save it to those tournaments and just take a break, right? Well, there's another break of a month. And when you do that, then you're going to have all these teams like Miami who are old. They're going to have to start playing 2 games a week on Wednesdays and Saturdays to make up for those games lost during those tournament months. Yeah, and we even see that already. They're having to congest the schedule down the stretch. We all know that down the end of the season, you start playing 2 games a week. You play Wednesday and Saturday nights or Sundays. You're going to have to do that even more if you take another break. If you go to the international, and I don't even call it the Euro calendar, it's just the international calendar. It's like what Mexico does. It's what Japan is switching to. It's what most leagues do.
There's some countries in South America don't do it. Like I follow the Colombian league, they don't do it. They start like the MLS in the beginning of the year. But I'm sorry, before you keep going, I don't want to forget. We were talking about Sunday Night Football and Sunday Night Soccer going up against it. The last Sunday Night Soccer game that is going to be played is on September 7th, which is the weekend before the NFL season kicks off. There's no more Sunday soccer after that.
And also, too, you just want to, it makes more sense to be aligned with all the top soccer leagues in the world do play the European calendar. You won't have to have any weird breaks except for winter.
This is my thing. You know why I don't like when you compare it and when everybody compares it to the European leagues is because in all those other countries, soccer is king. Everybody will go ahead and because they'll go into the cold weather and they'll go and sit and freeze their ass off.
But that's what they have. That's all they have.
And attendance is horrible during those games.
This is always my counterpoint to that. Can you tell me with this new calendar? I want specifics. I don't want just blanket statements of winter. Can you tell me what cold days they will play that they're not already playing right now with the news calendar? What cold days or months are they going to be playing that they're not already playing?
They play more games during the summer with midweek games because of the weather than they do right now.
But what cold games will they be playing under the new proposal that they're not playing already? Because they're not playing in all of this. They're not playing all of January.
You have
schedule
more
to work
teams
out.
playing.
For your schedule
You have more
to work
teams
out,
playing because it's playoffs and a lot of teams are eliminated.
and
But
for your
if a cold climate team made the playoffs far, they'd have to be playing in the cold weather. Are you saying that fans aren't going to show up? They're just like, hey, it's cold. Don't go.
like,
Don't go to
for a
games.
game that matters, yes, but for the a game that's meaningless in the beginning of the season, or I guess halfway through the season, in your example, they're not going to show up. And in your example, it's not starting like it does right now at the end of February. They'd have to start a little earlier for that to work out.
February,
by May.
they would start. Like I said, they would start in early February, but they would take their
Earlier
pause
February, though.
And
they start earlier February, where it's colder, and they're going up
they're
against
already
the Super
playing
Bowl.
in February, though. They're playing in February
The
already.
last
This is
week.
the last
The
weekend
last
of
week.
the February. though.
It's mid February
Last
technically. It's
There's Miami gets the early week always.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm just saying that there's ways around that, and you're going to take a break through mid-December, all of January, because statistically, January is the coldest month in North America. It is, and you're taking the whole month off. And also, it's more dangerous to be playing in the Texas heat than it is in the cold weather. It is. It's 100 degrees in Texas. You think that that's safe? You think that's enjoyable? I mean, it's not.
At nighttime is not as bad. When you're talking about freezing your ass off, like Messi was doing in KC, was in February. I mean, it's rough. I think the attendance is going to suffer if you get rid of summer games. And my main reason for wanting it is because I think that the summer is the time where the MLS can own the sports landscape.
So you think that Inter Miami fans are going to all the games like they are when Messi's not playing in 8 of them? You think attendance isn't dipping when Messi's missing 8 games in the summertime? You think Messi not playing in Chicago when he's supposed to because he's at Copa America is not hurting attendance? He's missing 8 games in the summer because of tournaments.
I mean,
so you talk
I'm
about
talking about the league. I'm talking about a league as a whole. When you talk about Inter Miami, it's very
the
specific.
loyal fans are going to go.
That's
Listen. This is the thing people have to realize. If you are a loyal fan, you're going to go to the game.
Do you care about the league growing, or do you just want the loyal fans to stay the loyal fans?
I think this is how the game grows because right now the league is not grown like it's supposed to. It's not.
But that's Apple's fault. That's not the schedule's fault.
Well,
I think you got to separate those two.
Well, it wasn't Apple's fault before this. It wasn't growing. That's why nobody wanted to give us a good media deal because it wasn't growing like it's supposed to. Nobody was clamoring, say, hey, let's give MLS a $200 million deal on ESPN. Nobody. That's why they took the Apple deal because it was the biggest offer we had.
But, things are changing. Bigger names are coming and things are changing. And I think
things are changing.
Having us in the summer, I think that's going to be a benefit. This summer, we're not going up against Copa America, the World Cup or anything. This is our summer.
Let me ask you this, and let me give you a counter on this, okay? If you said earlier about Messi playing in the summer, right? You said, do I think that the game would have been as big of a deal if Messi had played in the wintertime in League's Cup, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think that an Inter Miami versus, I don't know, we'll just say LA Galaxy, for example, they're not good this year, but just an example, right? Let's just hypothetically say that's what the match would be. Do you think that game would do better ratings December 7th, or do you think it'd do better ratings if it was June 1st? Are more people watching an MLS Cup final with Messi in Miami versus LA Galaxy on June 1st, or if they're watching on December 7th? It's not even close. It's not even close. You would probably quadruple your viewership.
I can't base the entire season on the final.
That's the most important thing. The final decides the champion.
What about the other 40 weeks?
And also the playoffs will be more important. They'll be more important and enjoyable, and more people will watch them in May going against basketball and hockey than they will against the NFL or college football.
They don't go up against the NFL.
There are some
on Saturdays.
There are some playoff games on Sundays. They spread them out. They got 3 games on Saturdays. They got 2 games or 3 games on Sundays.
Maybe the first round when they have like 30 million
Friday,
legs.
Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying that's eating into your market. You have they're competing against the NFL. No one's watching. I've seen this. That's what I'm saying. I see it with my numbers, and I see it with people's interest. There's 3 parts of the season that matters. Okay, the most important part of the season is opening week, after the summer transfer window, which is the main transfer window, and the MLS Cup playoffs. Those are 3 most important parts of the year. Everything else dies down. Everything else dies down.
And I don't want to keep going around in circles, but so you don't think there's any benefit to being the only league outside of baseball during the summer?
No.
Okay.
Because there's nothing going on. It's just the middle of the regular season. Most people aren't really in tune with it. They're watching Copa America, Euros, or something else, or going on vacation.
but nobody
I think
vacations
you
for 2
underestimate the
months.
people that travel to games. I do.
No, and then for 2 months, but nobody's vacationing for 2 full months. Kids are at home. What do we do with them? Well, let's go to a local game. What's on? Well, there's either baseball or the local MLS team. I think that it does help.
And also, too, you have to keep in mind, this is the middle of your season. This isn't the most important part of your season. It's the middle of your season. Keeping the schedule because of it being in the middle in the summer, I just don't see the benefit of having it. You want to maximize the most important part of your season. And like you said about the NFL is an absolute juggernaut, right? It's going to do good no matter what. You could play at any time of the year and it's going to do crazy numbers. MLS isn't the top dog, so it needs to be competing as little against, other entertainment avenues like NFL or college football.
And that's always when people say that they don't want to go up against the NFL. That's my point. They're not going up against the NFL. They're literally avoiding them. I hadn't realized it until just now that there are no Sunday night soccer games after September 7th.
But they are literally avoiding. They play playoff games on Sundays, and like Tommy said, the MLS Cup final is literally on the Big Ten and the SEC championship day. There are not just one; there are two.
That's terrible. No, I will say as well. That's a terrible week to have that because you have a lot of teams that are in college areas there. I mean, Atlanta, big market. I mean, I guess there's not the Pac-12 anymore. All the California teams are kind of all over the place.
The Big Ten now, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a terrible situation that you put it in because that's probably the most important week of college football season, especially now with the playoffs and the
seeding and the committee.
Seeding.
Yep.
Absolutely. So if you had to change something, if you weren't changing the schedule, I would absolutely get MLS Cup off of that week.
Well, where would you move it? Where would you move it though if you can't do it on Sunday because NFL and you can't do it on Saturday? Where would you put it?
Well, isn't there the week after?
The week after?
The week after? I don't think the playoffs start the week after. I think there's like a break. I'm pretty sure.
You could do it doesn't. You could do the week after, or you could take away one of the stupid 3 legs from the first round and just move everything back.
Apple does. I mean, I think Apple was
It's not going to happen.
A big part of creating that 3-leg thing because they wanted more. They wanted more games, more important games on their network. So, because I don't think there was a coincidence that Apple signs that, and then remember, like they didn't announce the playoff schedule until like either the week of the season starting or like right before it. It was ridiculous how late that they created that format. But I mean, the format's silly what they did, but they just want more important games.
And then I just want to bring up the whole transfer window. I know that's the biggest reason a lot of people want it because they want to have the same transfer window. But it's very American to have the trade deadline towards the end of the season where you get a big name and you kind of just ride that out to the end of the season. Tell me that's not very American. Where you try to acquire.
But here's the thing, though. You can't sell your best player. It's hard to sell your best player before the season starts. Most teams aren't going to sell their best player to MLS in the winter because they don't want to lose their best player. So you'd have to overpay. That's a difficult situation.
Right, but you get them in the summer.
But in the summertime, you want your MLS team to sell your best player halfway through the year? Because that's the biggest market. You don't want to sell your best player.
You're talking about the outgoing players, not the incoming players.
I'm talking both. They both matter. You don't want to sell your best
player.
Because
the incoming players, I don't mind coming halfway through the year.
But it's about losing. You don't want to lose your best player. Yeah, you don't want to lose your best player. And there's just
you also have players that don't have breaks either. So they come in and they're like, I think Giacomakis was in the middle of his season when he came in. Or Latte Loth was already in there, and now he's starting the season. So some of your players really start to become worn
16
out.
months, right? Like probably 16 months by the end of the year, he'll play consecutively without a break. It just makes there's the pros outweigh the cons, and I understand
that I disagree with.
Your summer games. Okay, you really hold the summer games near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely.
But when you look at the scheduling as far as the international tournaments, the transfer window, maximizing viewership when it comes to playoffs, that is way more important than watching.
The final is what you brought up about
than watching 4 summer games. We're talking 4 weeks. You're watching regular season MLS summer games. 4 weeks.
What are you talking about? It's like
it would be different between now. But you're starting in August, so you're playing in the new schedule. You're playing the whole month of August. So you're only losing maybe 4 to 5 games, and honestly, 2 of those are going to be at home. Only 2 games, maybe 3 games of those are going to be at home. So you're going to as an avid goer to the games,
but
you're going to lose maybe 2 or 3 games.
In the summertime, they play a lot of weekday games. They
there
play
are a lot
at
of
least 2 to 3 Wednesday games throughout the summer because of the weather, because there's more attendance, because there's so many kids out of school that they could attend those games.
I want to look more into the attendance because I've heard differing things about the attendance. I know that they report that the attendance is good, sold out, but when you look at the stands, it doesn't really match up what they're reporting with the ticket sales, because obviously if the ticket's sold, they're going to say, okay, 25,000 people, but sometimes it's not actually 25,000 people in the stands at the
They
game.
lie about attendance? They don't do that.
It's crazy,
that
right?
That happens all the time.
Yeah.
Like, they keep saying that the Dallas stadium is sold out, and I can hear a pin drop when I watch those games.
I just think it would be I would be very interested to see how much hype would be behind following up the Champions League final with an MLS Cup final the same day that night, and having two big teams decide who the winner of the league is, and then the season's over. You don't have to worry about any of the international
tournaments. The same day. I wouldn't do it the same day. I wouldn't do it the same day. I think you'd get overshadowed. I'd do it the next day because they play it on a Saturday. Well, kind of like Champions Cup this year. The Champions Cup's going to be played the day after the Champions League final.
I guess that'd be okay. I mean, Sunday, I thought it would be good to kind of make it like a tradition, right? Like you watch the Champions League final first, then you watch MLS Cup final later. Like you watch both games. Can you imagine the
stupid memes from all the European snobs, though?
I really don't care about them, honestly.
You love the Europeans. What are you talking about? You want to follow their schedule?
I love the schedule. I mean, is Liga MX European? I mean, they got the same schedule.
Liga MX sucks. And they do the whole apertura, clausura.
I do agree with that. They do suck. But, you know, it's a different. But look, I just think it would be beneficial to the league. And here's the thing people have to realize. It's inevitable. They're going to do it. They're not doing it in 2026, but they're going to do it in 2027. They want to do this. They're just kind of scared on how to implement it. Because in 2026, after the World Cup, they don't want to screw it up and because there's going to be an awkward period of, you know, maybe 4 or 5 months. They're going to have to get creative on how to get some games played. You can't take a 5-month break. So now Japan is implementing it by the 2026, 2027 season, or maybe it's 27, 2028. They're gradually, they announced this like 2 or 3 years ago that they were going to switch to the European calendar. I don't know exactly how they're doing it gradually. I'd have to look more, but I know that they're doing it year by year, maybe like changing the schedule a little bit. But it's got to be implemented right. And it's going to be awkward, at least for like half a year. But once it's new and like once it's fully integrated, you know, it'd just be normal.
When is the Apple TV deal up?
2032.
But didn't they have a 5-year opt-out?
They do have a 5-year opt-out, yeah. So, and I've heard people say that it's likely that could happen. Apple will pull out.
I figure out
you heard about Apple losing money left and right with all of their TV shows.
Even though I started watching Severance.
Yeah,
I watched
Severance. Is good.
I watched the last episode last night. I mean, I get it, but I don't get it. But I'll leave it at that because I don't want any spoilers. But yeah, Severance.
I'm watching a Seth Rogen show on Apple TV. It's pretty fun.
I heard that one's good also. I'm gonna have to pull that one up. I started watching Handmaid's Tale right before we jumped on here.
Oh, my wife has been binging the hell out of that. She's up there right now watching it.
You watched Shrinking yet?
Ooh, no, I haven't watched that.
Shrinking's good. That's a great show. I like Jason Segel and Harrison Ford's in it, so it's good.
I gotta watch that.
I've heard great things about that.
Tommy, she watched this series.
But Apple's losing a lot of money
for cheating if I did that.
What's that?
My wife would say I'm cheating if I watch a show without her.
No, I let her watch her own stuff.
Oh. I just sneak watch, pretend like I haven't seen it before.
But I mean, you saw that article about Apple TV losing all that money, right?
$1 billion a year.
Wow.
And did you see where they are? It was my buddy had sent this to me the other day, but essentially it was saying that they only had 25 million subscribers. They were one of the of all the prominent. Obviously, there's probably a subscription that's lower than them, but of all the prominent streamers, they are like second to last in subscribers.
I don't want to get into the whole Apple TV thing because that'll keep us on here for another hour. But real quick, I think it's tough because I think Apple, like if you really think about it, they do Apple TV, yes, but that's not their main thing, right? Like Apple, it has their hand in so many other things when it comes to the watches, the phones, the laptops, and all that other stuff. That
they're a hardware company,
right? But when it comes to Netflix, that Netflix is strictly focused in on streaming and all the other platforms. So, although I agree, Apple TV isn't doing the best. I mean, it's not their main focus.
Do either of you guys have a cable or a streaming service like a YouTube TV or anything like that?
I have Xfinity.
I think what would have been smart by MLS is to go through a streamer like YouTube TV and offer MLS Season Pass through YouTube TV, because when you're casually watching NBA, NFL, Big Ten, whatever you're watching, having it all right there, you're not having to go out of your way. I don't know why they're not offering it on something or I know Xfinity was supposedly supposed to do something like that where you could watch season pass.
Well,
DirecTV does that though, I believe.
I think so too. Yeah.
Well, season
that
pass
you're
for
able
what? For
to buy
MLS?
through. I agree, Will, on that.
Well,
yeah, you get season pass on them now on both of those platforms.
Everybody's saying that baseball is dying, which I agree with. But
yeah,
they're doing everything possible to get everybody access to the games. Like if you have T-Mobile, for example, you get the extra innings package. Like they're giving the extra innings package away to everybody, and they also let you purchase a single team. So if you pay, I think it's like $50 or $60, you can watch all 162 games to just that team. And I think MLS needs to get a little more creative. Yeah,
and then look at DraftKings. Look what DraftKings and MLS did. I mean, that was like 4 weeks ago. I think
$5 bet, you get the season for free or the season pass.
Yeah, well, they have.
I signed up for it, and I was giving it out to some of our listeners on there that wanted to have access to it. I mean, they're trying to be able to get people into it, but the only thing that's really going to get into like Apple TV, like you said, like if MLS did not exist, would any of you pay for Apple TV?
No.
I mean, if Ted Lasso came back, I would sign up for Ted Lasso, watch Ted Lasso, and probably bail after that.
Not a fan of how they're bringing it back, but yeah.
Right, but let's just say it was just a normal Ted Lasso was there.
You're talking about the heyday, but yeah.
Yeah, like and like same with Netflix. Like I cancel Netflix, Stranger Things comes on me, and the kids want to watch it. I sign up for Netflix, and I'm back. Like that's a situation there. The only way you're really gonna get this MLS like back to everybody is just random people going to the bar and saying, "Oh, this looks interesting. Let's start watching it." And you're going to get new fans. You're not going to get new fans on
or
Apple
what
TV.
You could do is go ahead.
And I think, Will, you said Netflix, I think, at some point in one of your tweets. Like, if Netflix picked it up, I'm pretty sure you said that, right?
I made a video on it.
Yeah. I mean, if another, like a bigger service that had it, absolutely. I think that more people would be able to jump on it and say, oh, like, what's this? And hop on.
200 million users on Netflix in the United States.
I mean, you see what WWE just did there. I mean, even though
Prime,
Daniel, you can't figure out WWE on Netflix, but like still,
I've hated it since it's gone on there. But Prime, they have soccer.
140 million. I think they have 140 million. Paramount Plus was like 70 million. And here's the thing too. Is like I said, I like the production. It looks better than it did on ESPN Plus. Those were terrible days. Like it didn't look good. It looked like someone was recording on an Android phone in the stands. That's what it looked like. But the problem
is, you were also getting the Fox Sports. You were getting whatever the Fox Sports, the local of the home team was when it was on ESPN Plus.
Exactly. No, 100%. And so that is obviously upgraded. It looks a lot better, cleaner, better presentation, right? The problem is the people that are there were the people that was always going to be there. All three of us were always going to watch it. How is it attracting new people to come watch it? That's the problem. It's not now. Messi obviously got 600K subscribers, maybe more when he came here. But you can't just bank on him to get all your subscriptions. You're going to have to get more people or bigger names. And even then, it's still an uphill battle because I just think some people don't want to have to take extra steps to go watch soccer. They just want to have it in one central hub and just rotate or swap between games in one place. They don't want to watch the Premier League on NBC or Peacock and say, okay, I got to go switch to Apple TV. Like the casuals, not us. The casuals just don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. Extra steps means you're limiting who's going to watch your product.
What you have to do is you have to get
your secondary contracts. I mean, that's your secondary contracts.
Tommy, you're going to the Cleveland game this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Get a friend or two that don't like soccer, take them to the game, and make them a soccer fan.
You call me Mr. Moneybags at this point because the cheapest
he
seat's
said
like $100 to the top section.
He said you got to pay for it too. Yeah,
I bet you they'll fall in love with the atmosphere.
Well, we'll see how many people go to that game. I know the Crew fans are real pissed about this entire situation.
That's fair. I could see why.
Absolutely. No, they are. They definitely are. But I'm not really trying to think about it like that. I'm just big matchup between two heavyweights. See who wins. And obviously,
it's game of the week. Easy.
Yeah. No, it is. It's game of the year, right? I mean, honestly, it probably is thus far. It's game of the year.
Oh, for sure. The matchup. And
just
it's going to be followed up.
I think the next
up with
matchup
Vancouver
of that,
next week.
At this point, it's game of the year.
Yeah, at this point.
I don't know what next time they play, but the next time the Crew, like you said, Will, is going to be a more they're
well-rounded,
deeper.
Yeah, they will be.
And that's exciting. And like I obviously I wanted Atlanta to beat Miami, but really I think what most people wanted was a Columbus Miami Eastern Conference final. That's what everybody was clamoring for last year. Unfortunately, it just did not work out for anybody, for either team.
Well, I'm dropping a video tomorrow. It's just like a preview. I think MLS has to have a 5-player plan this summer. They need to bring in 5 prominent names that they can entice people to want to tune in to watch. You can't just sign one guy and want it, or even just not including Messi.
The player has to want to come. Like De Bruyne might be one.
No, De Bruyne, Pogba, Neymar, Muller. This guys like that. People's names, even if you don't like them, somebody likes them. You guys don't like them, but somebody does watch them and like them. But you need to bring in coming anymore. You need to bring in 5 players, and here's the most important part: you need to spread them out. You don't need to have them on one team. You need to have them across the league, so that way Tommy has a reason to want to watch Seattle, or Daniel has a reason to want to watch the New York Red Bulls. Like give people a reason to want to tune into that game and check out this guy. And then when you watch that game, then you can notice other people around them. Like Emmanuel Latte-Lot got all the attention, right, Tommy? Obviously, because he's a $38 million man. Maybe some casual fan didn't know who Schleich was, or they didn't know who, believe it or not, maybe someone didn't know who Guzan was. And they watched the game like, oh, hey, who's that guy? He's pretty good. That's a way to get Miguel Almiron, obviously. Well, I think most people probably would know because he's a legend, right? Maybe not, though. Maybe not. But either way,
that was a long time ago he was here.
That's true. But like Messi playing next to Diego Gomez, people realized and got to know who he is. Having these stars around some of these players will help them build their name up and be more recognizable to the average casual fan.
But it's going to keep happening. And that's why in the summer, people will still go out there and watch in the summertime. Gio Reyna, you think he's coming? I don't think Gio Reyna's going to be anywhere near MLS.
Probably not.
He's having a hard enough time getting on the U.S. men's national team as it is. All right.
Yeah.
Good. You were going to say something, Will?
No, I was just going to say I think he's likely to probably go to a Scottish Premier League team, is what someone's reporting, which I don't know how that's better than MLS, but it is what it is. Or maybe like a team in the Eredivisie. But yeah, he's probably not going to come here this summer.
And then to Tommy's point about the next time Miami plays Columbus, it's scheduled for May 31st. So it's not that far off. It's a month and a half away when they play again. But if Miami makes it to the final of the Champions Cup, which is June 1st, they'll have to reschedule that because they're not going to play Columbus the day before they play the final of the Champions Cup. So
I hope Reyna comes to MLS.
He's not coming. At least not now.
No, I just want him to come back because there's going to be one fan base that's going to have like a Karen-type chant for Reyna and his mama. And I would love to see just one great chant about that entire situation. Someone come up with something.
Hey, be careful what you wish for, man. They might get rid of Miranchuk and
kick him out. Kick him out.
All right. I appreciate both you guys joining me to talk some disappointments and calendar. Will, let everybody know where they can find you, where they can find that video tomorrow.
Yeah, you can follow me on X at MLS Moves. You can see it down there spelled exactly like that, no spaces. And you can also find me on YouTube at MLS Moves. I cover all MLS teams, anything MLS that's convenient or relevant, and USMNT stuff occasionally, sadly. But yeah, appreciate you for having me on.
No Tennessee Tiny stuff?
No, not yet.
Tommy,
Tighten up moves. Follow that page.
Tommy, let everybody know where they can find you.
Page.
Scarves and Spikes. If your team's playing ours after the game, if you beat Atlanta, which right now it seems like it's a very likely chance, join me on Spaces. Come talk some trash about it. If not, I will be back next time Miami plays, and I'm going for 3-time worst guest of the year.
And I will tell you, if Atlanta loses to Philadelphia this week, this is rough. They play Philadelphia, then they have Orlando, Nashville, which has looked much better, and they have Chicago, which has looked much better.
On
the
road.
They play against Austin, which just got spanked by Vancouver, but up until that point, they had the best defense in the league. And then they play against Philadelphia again.
And then they go on the road trip. Then that starts the road trip from hell.
And then
it's
you get
rough.
A road trip.
That it's
gets
really
bad.
rough.
Oh,
It-
the road trip, they start in Cincinnati, then Orlando.
No, Cincinnati's at home.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is at home. Then they have Orlando, the Red Bulls, NYCFC, Columbus, Miami, and then you finally get a break on June 5th against DC United, then Toronto. But you guys got a really rough go. It's going to be a rough go for you guys.
Well, that's why we've been talking about for the past 3 weeks why it was this homestand, this 3-game homestand was so important, because you're in this shitty situation where your stadium's being occupied. Shut up, Will. We don't want to talk more about the schedule. But that's a situation that you run into here. Oh, the second guppy's full in my head now.
Yeah.
But obviously you're gonna get a lot of home games at the end of the season because of the situation. But you don't have this team just doesn't have a lot of room to make moves here.
I think the worst part is the hype behind the beginning of the season. I think that's where it hurts the most, because this team was so hyped. And I think it started with them beating Miami, and then signing Latzelat, and then all of a sudden Almiron, and it's like, oh, this is the best team in the East, when they were literally 10th last year.
They also went third of the season without 2 DPs.
Yeah.
Hey, like I said, they have good ingredients, just the wrong recipe right now. I'm sure that they can figure it out by the summer. And Tommy mentioned they don't have a lot of flexibility with the resources right now, GAM and TAM. But maybe they can we talked about this before the show started, maybe Miranchuk, maybe they could get him on loan, maybe bring someone else in, maybe if they had to, or sell him outright. If he is the odd man out, which we pretty much agree he would be, Miggy's not going anywhere and Latte Lot's too expensive to move. So look, it's not time to hit the panic button yet. It's still way too early, but they are a huge disappointment thus far. But there's a lot of pieces. It's not like it's the same core team that's being brought back and the same coach. It's like a whole new different team with a few familiar faces.
And it's only the first quarter. I mean, you guys still have time to get it together. It's just looking at the schedule coming up, that's rough. But
and real quick, I know we're trying to end this real quick, but I mean, when your coach and Brooks Lennon say the exact same thing after that New England loss, saying we can't blame each other, we have to stay together, that tells you that they're blaming each other. That tells me that someone said something at halftime that pissed some people off, or after the game there was something said.
Yeah,
exactly. And and my guess, and maybe not, but is Saba. He had to get taken off in that game, and he's one of the best players on Atlanta United. He had to get taken off because they had to change the formation there. So they've got a lot to figure out, and that's Ronnie Dahlia's. Obviously, that's his job. That's what he needs to do. But if not, then that's up to Garth Lagerwey and Chef Henderson to figure this out real quick in the summer.
Yeah, Chris Henderson. Well, we'll see what he can do. Like I said, we'll see what he can do when he finally has a checkbook to work with. All right. I appreciate you guys, and we'll be back tomorrow with Chris to do some predictions for the upcoming week. If you're listening on audio, we appreciate you listening all the way to the end. Please leave us 5 stars, comment, review, all that good stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching all the way to the end. Please like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. And as always, for those of you in the chat, we appreciate you hanging out with us for the last hour and 23 minutes. And we will be back. I agree, Dennis. We'll be back tomorrow. And
Dennis has had 5 gummies tonight.
Oh, man, he's outdoing me.
And we'll be back tomorrow. So until the next one, have a good one.
Cheers.